Everyone thinks Göbekli Tepe is the world's oldest temple. Everyone is wrong. 35 kilometers east, on a black hill in southeastern Türkiye, sits a place called Karahantepe. It might be older than Göbekli Tepe. It is bigger, and it is not alone. For 100 years, archaeologists taught a simple story. First, humans invented farming. Then, they invented cities. Then, they invented religion. Bread came first. Gods came later. Karahantepe is rewriting that story. 266 T-shaped stone pillars, a life-sized statue holding itself, a human face carved directly into a bedrock wall, 11,500 years old, 6,000 years before Stonehenge, built by hunter-gatherers, before farming, before pottery, before the wheel. By the end of this video, you will understand why the man who is digging it up says it will take 100 years to finish, and why the most important word in human history might not be wheat. It might be us. The year is 1997. A young archaeologist from Harran University named Bahattin Çalık is walking a hillside in Şanlıurfa province. He is doing a routine surface survey. Hot day. Limestone dust on his boots. A clipboard in his hand. He kneels. Sticking up from the dry earth is a familiar shape. A flat slab of stone, carved, T-shaped. He has seen this shape before, 35 kilometers west of here, at a site that is just starting to make global headlines. A site called Göbekli Tepe. Çalık reports the discovery. He names the hill Karahantepe. Black Hill. He writes a paper. He waits for permission to dig. He waits and waits. For 22 years. Across the same valley, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt is becoming a legend. He has uncovered the first circles at Göbekli Tepe, hunter-gatherer monuments older than the pyramids. The world calls it the oldest temple on Earth. Magazine covers, documentaries, tourist buses, but Schmidt dies in 2014. Less than 5% of Göbekli Tepe has been dug, and nobody is paying serious attention to the smaller, quieter hill 35 kilometers east. Until 2019. That is when a man named Necmi Karul arrives. Professor Necmi Karul is a Neolithic specialist from Istanbul University. Patient. Methodical. He talks like a man who knows he is digging up something bigger than his own lifetime. In 2019, he becomes the official excavation director at Karahantepe. The real digging finally begins. What he finds in the next 2 years rewrites the textbook. He uncovers structure AB. Inside, 11 T-shaped stone pillars, each one carved directly into the bedrock, arranged in a circle. At the center, rising from the rock floor, a single figure. The whole chamber looks like a stone congregation. 11 listeners, 1 speaker. He uncovers structure AD, a dense forest of upright phallic pillars, what Karul calls totems, hundreds of them packed close, carved by hand, 11,000 years before any chisel of iron existed. And then there is the wall, sticking out from the bedrock of one chamber. 3-dimensional, fully carved, is a life-sized human head. It is unique in pre-pottery Neolithic archaeology. Nothing else like it has ever been found from this era. Karul believes worshippers were paraded past it. Imagine standing in that chamber. The stone floor cold under your feet, a torch in your hand. The head emerges from the wall. The eyes are deep. The face is still. And you realize, 11,400 years ago, someone stood exactly where you are standing, holding exactly the same torch, looking into exactly the same eyes. But here is the part nobody expected. The biggest discovery was still ahead. September 2023, in a chamber inside Karahantepe, a worker brushes dust away from what looks like a stone surface. The dust falls, A face appears, then a chest. Ribs, arms, hands. It is a statue, 2.3 meters tall, taller than any person alive that day. Naked, carved fully in the round, seated on a stone bench, hands clasping its own body, ribs deeply etched, a V-shaped collar at the neck. It is 9,400 years old, older than the Egyptian pyramids by 6,000 years, older than writing, older than the wheel, older than your most distant named ancestor by hundreds of generations. And it is looking back at you. Carroll calls it a cornerstone, one of the oldest realistic human portraits ever found, not stylized, not abstract. A specific individual anatomically careful figure, captured in some moment, maybe death, maybe ecstasy, maybe ritual transformation. Around it, archaeologists find vulture stones, bowls, plates, human bone fragments. This was not random. This was placed. Someone, 11,400 years ago, decided this figure mattered. They carved it, they carried it, they built a chamber for it. They left offerings beside it. They sealed the room, and then they walked away, without writing, without metal, without pottery, taking with them the only language we will never recover. But the chamber kept the secret. October 2025, a new chamber at Karahantepe is being excavated. Inside it, grinding stones, cooking residue, domestic tools. This room was not just sacred. People lived here, and then, against one wall, a T-shaped pillar, like the others, carved from limestone, 135 centimeters tall. Except this one has a face, prominent brow bone, straight, sharp nose, deep eye sockets, where eyes once seemed to look out, a simplified, almost abstract human visage carved into the stone. For 3 decades, archaeologists had argued about the T-shaped pillars. Were they architectural supports? Were they symbols? Were they meant people? Carroll says the answer is now in. Listen to his words. This example provides clear evidence that T-shaped pillars symbolized humans, and it is a unique and abstract example of the self-expression of the people of the period. Symbolized humans. Every pillar at every Tepeler site, Karahantepe, Göbekli Tepe, Sabers, Tepe, all 12 sites in the network. They were never just stones. They were people. Ancestors, guardians, witnesses, a congregation of stone people, arranged in circles, looking inward at something, or someone, at the center. And here is the moment your understanding of human history has to shift. This was built before farming, before pottery, before the village in the modern sense. The textbook said our ancestors needed full bellies to invent religion. Karahantepe says it the other way around. Religion did not come from agriculture. Agriculture came from religion. In 2021, the Turkey Ministry of Culture launches a project that ties everything together. It is called Tepeler, Stone Hills. Necmi Carroll is appointed coordinator. The mission: investigate not just Karahantepe, not just Göbekli Tepe, but all of them, together as one network. 12 sites identified so far, some say more than 20, stretched across 125 miles of the ChronoLore highlands, hilltop after hilltop, each one with T-shaped pillars, each one with animal reliefs, each one buried by its own builders around 8000 BCE. Think about what that means. These were not isolated genius monuments. This was a civilization, a temple civilization, a temple civilization, a coordinated cultural system. People moved between these sites. They shared myths. They shared symbols. They shared architectural codes. The same T-shaped vocabulary appears at every location, like a language carved in stone. And they did all of this, every dig site, every pillar, every carved snake and leopard and vulture, without farming, without metal, without the wheel, without writing, without anything we usually call civilization. What did they have? They had each other. They had shared stories. They had a reason, strong enough to drag 2-ton stone pillars up hillsides and stand them in circles. Mehmet Özdoğan, senior advisor on the project, puts it like this. The Anatolia of 12,000 years ago was lush. Gazelle were everywhere. Wild wheat and barley grew thick. The hunters were not starving. They had time. They had energy. And they used it not on more food, but on meaning. The pillars were never about survival. They were about belonging. Today, if you walk Karahantepe at dusk, the place is almost silent. Göbekli Tepe is crowded. Tour buses, glass walkways, gift shops. Karahantepe is still raw. Open trenches, brushes resting on bedrock. You can hear your own breath. Less than 5% of the site has been excavated. 266 pillars uncovered. And ChronoLore estimates thousands more are still underground. The hill keeps secrets the way mothers keep secrets. ChronoLore has said something striking. Listen carefully. The works will continue here for at least 50, maybe 100 years. I have less time. The man who is digging up the oldest temple on earth knows he will not finish. His students will not finish. His students' will inherit unfinished trenches. Each generation will pull a little more story from the stone. The stone hills will outlive them all. They already have, by a factor of 400 generations. There is a strange comfort in that. Around 8000 BCE, the builders of Karahantepe did something almost no civilization since has done. They buried their masterpiece. They filled every chamber with clean, sterile soil. They sealed the human-faced pillar. They covered the man holding himself. They walked away. They did not destroy it. They did not abandon it. They tucked it in, like a parent placing a sleeping child under a blanket. 11,000 years later, Necmi ChronoLore and his team are lifting that blanket. Gently, one brushstroke at a time, and underneath, the world they sealed is waking up. So here's the question Karahantepe leaves us with. For 100 years, we were taught that civilization was born from hunger. Bread first, then villages, then meaning. Karahantepe says something quieter and stranger. Maybe we did not gather to survive. Maybe we gathered because we were already lonely. Because a story shared around a fire was worth dragging 2 tons of stone up a hill. What does that mean for you? Right now, at this exact moment, somewhere on Earth, probably in your own city, millions of people are doing the same thing those hunter-gatherers did. They are not eating. They are not working. They are watching a stranger tell a story on a screen. They are gathering around fires made of glass. The technology changed. The hunger did not. So the next time someone asks you what the most important invention in human history is, wheel, fire, writing, agriculture, remember the man holding himself in a stone chamber, sealed for 11,400 years. Remember that we built a temple before we built a field. We were storytellers before we were farmers, and about 300 miles northwest of Karahantepe, on a flat, dusty plain in central Türkiye, sits another hill, Younger than Karahantepe by 2,500 years, but still older than the pyramids by twice over. They called it Çatalhöyük, 8,000 people, living packed together in a honeycomb of mud brick houses. No streets, no doors. You entered your home through a hole in the roof. You buried your dead beneath your bed. And on the walls, leopards painted in red ochre, wild bulls, goddesses, the same animals their ancestors had carved at Karahantepe 2,000 years before, in a chamber sealed under sterile soil. Same hands, same stories, still going.